Hi and welcome back to a new video and my first Computex video from 2026. We're starting this with a tour of Gigabyte, and I'm not sure what they are doing, but every year it feels like Gigabyte is getting bigger and bigger. They not only have one booth, they have three. So we are now starting in the VIP showroom, that's what they call it. They have a lot of very interesting hardware here, and then later on we will go to the exhibition area in Nangang and then check some more stuff out there. You are looking for a real alternative to Google Drive or Dropbox with European data privacy standards? Then take a look at Hetzner's Storage Share. Based on Nextcloud, it lets you securely share files, collaborate on documents, and organize appointments with the integrated calendar. Whether you use a laptop, smartphone, or browser, your files are always available. GDPR compliant, flexible with no minimum contract term and no cancellation period. You'll find the link to Hetzner Storage Share in the video description. New customers can save $20 with the code DERBAUER20. We're starting the quick tour with the Gigabyte Eagle 5, which is a pre-built and also an absolute entry-level pre-built. You can see it's an 8700F and an RTX 5060. And you might think this is kind of counterintuitive to everything else, which is like pretty much high-end they're showing. But Gigabyte also knows that it's becoming a problem that the PC is no longer as accessible as it used to be. So they try to fight this to still make PCs accessible with a lower price range, and that's why they're trying to just offer this for the future at a lower price range than what you can typically access right now as PCs. Then we have a 27-inch 2K OLED monitor, 280 Hz. I think you might figure out more than me by just looking at the specs, because I'm not a monitor expert. I don't know much about them, but I just wanted to show you what they offer. What I know more about is eGPUs, because I used eGPUs for the past years for me working at Thermal Grizzly. I use them as, I call it, a performance docking station. For me, I have a multi-monitor setup and I plug it into an eGPU, which I need for especially all kind of CAD work. And just for me, it worked better in the past than just using a simple docking station, because it also provides extra performance. And here we have, that is also, just from my personal perspective, super interesting, because it's a 27-inch 5K. That means it's 5120 by 2880 pixels. So super high pixel density with a 27-inch, while it still has very good refresh rate of 220 Hertz, and it has 1250 nits brightness. So if this was matte surface, this would be my dream monitor. It's very close, just maybe it can also offer a matte finish. And then if you need more power as an eGPU, there is also this AOURS RTX 5090 AI box. On the other side of the room, we have a big hardware lineup that, at least for me personally, is much more interesting. We're getting to this soon. There is an AOURS 40 years anniversary edition signed by Papa Jensen. And then if we go over here, we can start from the left. So that's a 1600 watt PSU. And I think it's quite impressive how short, how narrow this one is for the performance. Usually, I think they're much longer. Then next to it, we have a 240 AIO and a 360 AIO that appear to have like a single frame fan, which they actually don't. It's just a cover that is sitting on top. But going over to the motherboards, especially these two are kind of cool, because you can see those overclocking features. So display can increase, decrease the E-clock over the button, voltage measurement points, plus the socket is rotated by 90 degrees. That's why you have the DIMMs on top and also M.2 on the right. The EPS connectors are partially hidden. That can, I think, look quite nice for cable management. For example, on this one, you can even remove this cover, do the connecting cable management, and then put the cover back on top, kind of hide your EPS connector. And the fact that you have this kind of overclocking featured motherboard in white, I think is also quite special. There's also this one, which I think is interesting in regard of that it's also a dual DIMM board, but it also has M.2 on the right, which is unusual. Here it makes sense because it's flipped to the side and you just move whatever is sitting underneath to the right here. So that's kind of obvious, but not really on this one. Still on the right, but normal socket orientation and a dual DIMM motherboard. This one and also the black version, I think are special in regard that, at least I didn't see this before, I think so. It's a micro ATX motherboard with stealth. That means that you have, as you can see, the connectors facing the backside. So if you're doing a stealth build and you need a micro ATX board in white or black, they now exist. Almost missed this funny feature. On the Intel motherboards, you often have what's called slow mode, and they call it limp mode and put a turtle on it. You can probably hear it, we made it to the show floor, and this is one of the 3 booths they have. That's quite insane, especially if I compare that to the booth we have. And this one is specifically dedicated towards everything that's like data center and especially, of course, AI. And of course, also here, Jensen left his traces. And of course, I criticized NVIDIA a couple of times in the past, but you definitely have to acknowledge how much they improved all these kind of data center solutions in the past and what kind of technology they now offer. This one is also absolutely insane. Not only what it costs, but also the power density. Each of these black ones is an RTX Pro 6000. They are quite slim because they are water cooled. You see like a manifold in the back that's distributing the water, and they're just slotted in. And I think the power delivery also comes from the board that is underneath. Gigabyte is also specializing on modular data centers. They're taking those sea freight containers and equip them with everything you need, like from infrastructure for power delivery, cooling, and also the servers that are then inside. So if you can have your space somewhere where you can build your data center, you just order those sea freight containers, fully equipped, and they say they can set them up very, very quickly. Even though I don't know too much about servers in general, I have to admit that, but that is an impressive cooling solution. Most of the time, if you have liquid cooling inside the data center, you still connect the server somehow on the back with your cooling system. But this one is a closed liquid cooling system. So you can use it in a data center that is not made for liquid cooling, but then you can still have very high power density. And that is a massive radiator with a push-pull fan configuration. And I guess this thing there is probably the pump. There are so many items here that I honestly have a hard time figuring out what I want to present to you guys, because yeah, I think they're featuring like 50 new products, and I decided to just pick 4 or 5 ones that I find interesting and show them to you, because otherwise this is like content for a year. There is an ARI edition of a couple of components. So it starts with a case, it goes over to the main components such as the motherboard. So there are a B850 AMD-based ARI-themed motherboards, black and white, with some pretty cute and nice design touches. Then it goes all the way over, for example, to this RTX 5080. And talking about special designs, there is also this dark wood edition, which matches perfectly from all the components. Case, then GPU, you can see, has these wood design elements, motherboard. That looks neat, that looks really neat. And if you like wood, but maybe not the dark design, there is also a light one. AI is of course still the big thing in this exhibition, but what I like versus like 2 years ago when I made this dedicated AI bashing video is that this year they actually have very good use cases for AI, and they show more dedicated systems and servers. So at least that makes sense, and they not just use buzzwords that makes no sense. This motherboard features 3D metal printed heat sinks. Especially on the front side, you can see all those 3D metal printed elements, like these. So the way it works is you have those aluminum powders in very thin layers, and then you melt it with a laser. That's how you can create all those heat sinks. For example, this one for the VRM and this block for M.2. That one is also kind of interesting in the regard that I didn't really understand what I'm looking at until I found out that this is usually closed and is a 3D printed copper vapor chamber. The power stages or the power delivery on this motherboard is also something I have not seen before. It seems to be some kind of integrated solution, because I can't spot power stages or inductors. So I think this could be a solution that integrates maybe both. On left and right you can still see capacitors, but power stages and inductors kind of missing, so probably all in one package. It is impressive to see how Gigabyte developed and evolved over the years. But also here you can clearly see this shift in our industry, that most of the items are definitely targeted towards server and workstation, but I'm still glad to see that they're still trying to develop and innovate in the gaming and overclocking market. We saw some very interesting motherboards and other cooling solutions, so I hope you also enjoyed this video. See you next time. Bye bye.